Part 4. Heaven-Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 31. Situ Minglang's method of inducing thunder in the sky is the real essence of the thunder control technique. In the past year, Situ Minglang has spent at least 8 months practicing the art of controlling thunder, so he has reached the point of proficiency. Now, in the eyes of the Tongtian disciples with envy and reverence, he suddenly stretched out his long sword and drew it. The moment the thunder sword pointed at Wu Yu actually felt like he was being targeted by poisonous snakes and demons and was in danger of death. Go to hell! Situ Minglang laughed loudly in the glare of thunder, and drew the thunder with his long sword. The moment he pointed it at Wu Yu, there was an explosion in the sky. When he looked up, he could see the electric snake suddenly darting out from the clouds. The light shone and instantly reached the top of Wu Yu's head at an astonishing speed that was impossible to dodge. Wow! Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. The truly top Taoist skills were displayed, and everyone was still stunned. They were convinced that no matter how strong the mortal body was in the physical training state, it could not be an opponent of Taoism. At this time, Situ Mingliang was proving to them again B/U003E. In front of Wu Yu's eyes, the fiery electric snake had exceeded his perception speed. His dodge speed was far inferior to the electric snake's running speed. At that critical moment, he only had time to block his head with the demon-suppressing sword. If this divine thunder hits the head directly, it will be the result of a body cracking. When the thunder snake collided with the demon-suppressing sword, just as everyone expected, the electric snake hit Wu Yu's body through the demon-suppressing sword and exploded immediately. For a moment, thunder wrapped around and destroyed Wu Yu's intact body. In a short period of time, he was burned to death by the blast and fell to the ground stiffly, causing a burst of smoke and dust. It's actually cooked, haha. When they saw Wu Yu lying on the ground with bursts of green smoke rising from his body, many disciples of the Tongtian sword sect burst into laughter, and the leader among them was Ming Tianfeng. Disciple. It's all over so quickly. This Wu Yu is so ridiculous. He doesn't even know how powerful Taoism is. From now on, I am afraid that Wu Yu will be the laughing stock of the entire Tongtian sword sect disciples before and after tea. Outside the battlefield, Su Yanli frowned slightly and was about to step forward, but was stopped by Mo Shishu. He whispered, "Don't panic, his body still has a lot of vitality." Just when everyone was laughing and making noise, and when Mo Shishu finished speaking, 2 things happened. The first thing was that Situ Minglang had a stern look in his eyes and a cruel expression on his face. He still held the Taoist magic formula and continued to attack. Judging from his appearance, he wanted to attract another thunder snake and kill Wu Yu completely. Really wiped out? In the eyes of the disciples, Wu Yu was probably dead. Situ Minglang's behavior seemed to break the rules of this battle, but his master was here. The second thing is even more incredible. That is, Wu Yu, who had fallen to the ground before, suddenly flew up when Situ Minglang was preparing for his second attack, turned into an afterimage, and killed Situ Minglang at a terrifying speed. Both happened in an instant. It's almost to the extreme. Yes, a divine thunder indeed injured Wu Yu, but it was far from being able to kill him. His indestructible body possesses terrifying resistance and recovery power. That divine thunder can kill anyone who cannot condense qi. Opponent, but it can't cost Wu Yu's life. Taoist magic is indeed powerful, but it takes a certain amount of time to be used. This little time is enough for me to let you return to the West. Holding the demon-suppressing sword in hand, Wu Yu's domineering strength and spirit are back. Now he is a peak warrior. He strikes decisively, like a thunder on the ground, and suddenly explodes. At the moment when he raises the sword, the demon-suppressing sword seems to have a golden dragon coiled around it. Slay the dragon against heaven. The sword and the dragon were perfectly fused together in Wu Yu's hands. A burst of golden light flashed, and the sharp, domineering, and heaven-defying killing sword had already reached Situ Minglang's eyes when everyone was most unbelievable. Not dead, Situ Minglang thought he was dead and was about to make up for it a second time. He didn't expect that such a murderous intention would be brought to him in the blink of an eye. Now Wu Yu's domineering and indomitable will made him feel a little fear in his heart. He was shaken. It took time to summon the electric snake. He quickly changed the method to protect himself. Thunder Shield. This Taoist technique is very fast. A single spell can condense the surrounding thunder and turn it into a thunder shield to protect him in front of his eyes. Situ Minglang only has one hand free to protect himself, while the other hand still holds the thunder sword. Draw the divine thunder again. Riot time. Break. Break the wind and slay the dragon against the sky. What kind of will is this? Coupled with the terrifying power of Wu Yu's body, under that sword, the thunder shield exploded at an incredible speed. The moment the demon-suppressing sword passed by, Situ Minglang held it high, holding the thunder sword. The arm flew out in an instant, and of course the thunder sword flew out at the same time. Puff! Wu Yu also took the opportunity to add a kick, hitting Situ Minglang's chest. There was a crisp sound of the sternum breaking. Situ Minglang flew out in front of Wu Yu's eyes and slammed into the crowd. The crowd was naturally shocked at that time. The panic spread, and Situ Minglang was hit hard on the ground. The blood and soil were mixed together, making him miserable. This guy still looks down on me. He actually wanted to use this thunder shield to block me. At the last moment, he didn't give up on triggering the thunder. Wu Yu couldn't help but sneered. Situ Minglang was so proud, and now he was defeated so miserably. That's why, as expected, when I looked up, I could see that the clouds in the sky had dispersed. Just like Situ Mingming, the situation was over. The winner is determined. Situ Minglang had his arm broken and was kicked, and his fighting power was basically reduced. Now he could only get up from the ground with difficulty. His face turned pale. This chapter is not finished yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Well, it can be seen that this incredible scene shocked the people around him. All the disciples, Su Yanli and the others, even the elders, even Lan Huayun, looked very ugly at this time. Wow! In the silence, only the little girl Qing Mang suddenly cheered and said happily, Wu Yu wins. Situ Minglang loses. I'm afraid that for some people, this sound is very harsh. Wu Yu looked around and saw the affirmative eyes of Su Yanli and the others, as well as the deep awe in the eyes of other disciples. When she raised her head, she saw Lan Huayun's indifference to her. This was a good thing. Before she defeated Situ Minglang, her eyes were indifferent. At that time, Wu Yu couldn't get into her eyes. Finally, there is the painful Situ Minglang who is struggling on the edge of madness. His eyes were dyed red with blood, and he silently walked to the thunder sword and picked it up under the gaze of everyone. Wu Yu was still very vigilant. The golden flame talisman he had been hit by Yagyu before was from Situ Minglang. Although consumable treasures such as talismans were absolutely not allowed to be used in this kind of battle, with Situ Minglang's personality, it's not unexpected to do something that violates the rules, so even if Mu Ge declares his victory, he must prevent him from making a sneak attack. After all, what he wanted was not victory, but Wu Yu's life. In the dead silence, Mu Ge realized the real reason why Feng Shui cultivated Wu Yu, so he opened his voice and announced, in the last battle, the outcome has been decided, and the winner is... etc. Situ Minglang suddenly interrupted Mu Ge's words with a sinister voice. This was rude to the elder, but who made him Lan Huayun's disciple? Everyone focuses on Situ Minglang again. I'm not defeated yet. Situ Minglang stopped the huge amount of bleeding from his broken arm with one hand, and raised the thunder sword with the other hand. When he said these words, his expression was distorted, and his voice even had a hint of crying. He had obviously entered a state of madness. This maybe he will ignore everything and want to make a comeback. Wu Yu could vaguely feel the murderous intent he brought. However, Supreme Protector Lan Huayun did not speak, so no one would stop Situ Minglang. This made everyone's newly relaxed heartstrings tighten again, even more tense than in the previous battle. What they were wondering was, what on earth was Situ Minglang going to do? Wu Yu, I want to eat your flesh and drink your blood. Not to mention that Wu Yu killed his two brothers, even Situ Minglang, who made him proud today, was reduced to such an extent. It was also a capital crime. All the resentment combined was enough to drown all his reason today. Ming Ming, he has become your inner demon. If you don't kill him, you will never get through this. So, kill him without any scruples. Master will handle other matters for you. No one could hear Lan Huayun's voice. She used a superb technique to transmit her voice to Situ Minglang alone. After hearing these words, all the worries in Situ Minglang's heart disappeared, leaving only the madness of hatred. At this moment, he immediately made a move that made everyone unbelievable. With a puff, he actually pierced his own heart with the thunder sword. In an instant, the lightning exploded, and the entire Situ Minglang was quickly overwhelmed by the thunder. His body turned into a human-shaped aggregate of thunder and lightning, and he could only barely make out his arms, legs, feet, and head. Forbidden Taoist technique, possession by thunder demon. Just because of this forbidden Taoist technique, Situ Minglang underwent a huge change. His body simply merged with countless thunderbolts, transforming himself into an attack. The overbearing thunder power almost made everyone take a few steps back. Everyone could see electric snakes swimming around in their eyes. Today's Situ Minglang is naturally terrifying. Forbidden Taoism, Su Yanli and Mo Shishu looked at each other and saw the anger in each other's eyes. The two of them flew towards Wu Yu. Mo Shishu said, Situ Minglang, you dare to use forbidden Taoist techniques and break the rules on the immortal fighting platform. According to my kendo rules, you have been disqualified from participating in the battle. Please retreat immediately. Wu Yu had also read the Sword Dao sect rules, which recorded that some of the Tao techniques were forbidden to be used among disciples because of their great power, cruel methods, and even harm to others and themselves. The only situation where they could be used was to deal with demons, when it is absolutely necessary. So Situ Minglang was against the rules. Mo Shishu and the others came to protect him at this time. Wu Yu remembered this kindness in his heart, but he felt that it was useless. As expected, Lan Huayun waved his hand slightly, and the two of them seemed to be sucked into a whirlpool and were forcibly imprisoned in the original place. On the ground, Lan Huayun glanced at them, condescendingly, but didn't say a word. After all, no matter what she said, Lan Huayun didn't make sense, but she was going to do it. Who made it impossible for the wind and snow to escape today? At this time, Situ Minglang had already seized the opportunity given by Lan Huayun. Amid the noise of the crowd, he turned into a thunder demon with his strength improved. He came violently and killed people. Wherever he went, rocks exploded, the land was scorched, and endless electric snakes rolled around, creating a doomsday scene in front of Wu Yu. Now Situ Minglang is indeed much stronger than he was back then. I'm afraid that in Lan Huayun's eyes, Wu Yu at this time is doomed. /U003ch//U003e. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 32. Boom. Situ Minglang just slashed with his sword, and the explosive thunder plowed a charred gully on the tilted ground. Wu Yu just happened to dodge and was not hurt. This casual attack is as powerful as the previous summoning of thunder snakes. This forbidden Taoist technique is really powerful, Wu Yu thought to himself. At this time, Situ Minglang was chasing him. The terrifying destructive force bombed the surroundings into a scorched earth. In the eyes of everyone, Wu Yu was just running around like a mouse. There were several times when the thunder sword energy exploded beside him, which had a certain impact on him, but Wu Yu never found any opportunity to attack, and was about to be killed by Situ Ming Lang. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Not far away, Su Yanli had already left, probably to call Feng Shui, but from Lan Huayun's calm eyes, Feng Shui would definitely not be able to make it. Wu Yu. Seeing Wu Yu being completely suppressed, Qing Mang's face turned even paler. She also knew that forbidden Taoist magic could not be used in this kind of battle, so she was so angry that she shed tears. All the disciples were silent. Lan Huayun's behavior of allowing disciples to use forbidden Taoist magic to kill Wu Yu was too obvious. Even the elders next to her were restricted by her power and looked heavy. Wu Yu. When Wu Yu fled, Situ Minglang turned into thunder and lightning and rushed up. Even if his whole body was submerged by thunder, his sinister sneer could still be seen. Die. A more devastating blow came. For Situ Minglang, this was the end of Wu Yu's life. However, he did not notice Wu Yu's face and was always calm. Until this time, he suddenly smiled helplessly and said in his heart, "Since this is the case, we can only fight. I originally planned to save this ability for Wudu to display it. Since he reached the level of immortal transformation, he has a huge trump card. Now, under the suppression of Situ Minglang's Thunder Demon, he took out this trump card. Before the Thunder Sword energy attacked, Wu Yu's transformation started from his eyes. Immortal Ape Transformation. His eyes, which were originally black but only glowed with gold, suddenly burst out dazzling golden light, and in the process, they completely transformed into gold. The pupils were even burning with golden flames, which were like two suns burning in the eye sockets. Then starting from the eyes, a golden ripple swept around with the eyes as the center, shaking. Everyone was watching this shocking change. First, his bones crackled and grew thicker, and in a blink of an eye, Wu Yu was at least 1 foot taller, and his majestic arms, thighs, tiger waist, and bare back, etc., were twice as thick, and he turned into a giant beast. His face was also changing towards the face of an ape. Although compared with a real ape, it looked very handsome, but compared with a human, it was already very fierce, especially the sharp teeth, which were all flowing with golden light. What was even more obvious was that golden hair had grown on his body during this transformation, covering his entire body. Except for his hands and feet, he was basically covered with golden hair. Fortunately, the trousers Wu Yu was wearing before were elastic enough, so they were not torn at this time, but the clothes on his upper body were completely torn. From the back, a golden character could be vaguely seen on his back. It was like the core of Wu Yu's body now. This symbol communicated with the heaven and earth. At this time, Wu Yu was a straighter and taller ape than a real ape. The golden hair on his body flashed brilliantly under the light of the setting sun day. Although it was very domineering and fierce, it was not lacking in beauty. In fact, this was a more beautiful ape than a human. Thick, domineering, fierce, full of masculine beauty and huge impact. Just one look can make people's hearts beat wildly, not to mention looking into those sun-like eyes. In front of Wu Yu, Situ Minglang, who was possessed by the Thunder Demon, looked like a child, less than half of Wu Yu's height. So violent. This is the immortal ape transformation. Wu Yu felt his own surge of strength. In terms of physical strength, he went from the strength of 5,000 war horses to at least the strength of more than 7,000 war horses. With his huge strength, he could compete with more than 7,000 war horses. Not only the violent strength, but also his mental will was greatly affected after the immortal ape transformation. He became manic and bloodthirsty, and his whole body seemed to explode. This was a change in his blood. No matter how calm Wu Yu was, he couldn't restrain himself at this time. Although this was not the first time he transformed into an immortal ape, the excitement and mania still made him hesitate. Before, when he transformed into an immortal ape in the training room of his disciple, he almost couldn't control himself and destroyed the disciple. The biggest advantage of performing this immortal ape transformation is, powerful. Of course, there are disadvantages. First, it consumes a lot of power and will quickly tire. After the immortal ape transformation fades, it takes a period of recuperation to recover to the perfect state. Second, it is mental rage. If the rage reaches a certain level, Wu Yu may not be able to control himself, and then something he doesn't want to happen will happen. But the other party is possessed by the thunder demon, so Wu Yu has no choice. What is that? Not only Situ Minglang was frightened, but everyone around was stunned. If Wu Yu didn't have any demonic aura on him, they would almost think that this was Wu Yu's real body. In fact, the appearance of this immortal ape is the same as the ape in Wu Yu's mind, that is, the peerless Monkey King, except that it does not have those armors and helmets. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Wu Yu, what is this method? I don't know. For ordinary disciples, it is of course incredible. Even Mo Shishu, who was extremely anxious, was stunned at this time. He looked at Wu Yu in astonishment and murmured, according to the records in the classics, this kind of transformation technique does exist in the world, but it is at least a Taoist technique. How can he perform it out of thin air, as if he has the blood of this ape? Mo Shishu is already knowledgeable enough, but he doesn't understand it deeply. Lan Huayun's face also became serious. It can be vaguely seen that even she herself was very surprised by Wu Yu's method. This is definitely not a Taoist technique, let alone a forbidden Taoist technique, but a change of blood. No matter how they guessed, Wu Yu collided and fought with Situ Minglang at this time. Fairy Ape vs Thunder Demon. The demon suppressing sword seemed a little short in Wu Yu's hand. Clash. Holding the demon suppressing sword, Wu Yu slashed head-on, still using the golden flame dragon slaying art, while Situ Minglang, with the thunder sword energy, burst into killing. The two of them clashed head-on, accelerating from a distance, and then collided with each other. Wu Yu, you are really a beast, haha. Situ Minglang was possessed by the thunder demon, and his mental state was not much better than Wu Yu. He was more crazy, and Wu Yu was irritable. Roar! Wu Yu just gasped, and the huge power between his chest and abdomen actually caused the sound of the giant beast's roar. He was irritable and furious. One sword, slaying the dragon against the sky. Violent slash. The two swords clashed. Crack. Everyone saw with their own eyes that Wu Yu's demon-suppressing sword, with its overbearing power, actually cut off the magic weapon, the thunder sword. The thunder from the thunder sword struck Wu Yu's body, wandering and entangled on his golden hair, almost like a thorn to penetrate Wu Yu's skin and destroy his internal organs. However, after the transformation of the immortal ape, Wu Yu's flesh and blood body was so hard and stable that only a small part of the thunder rushed in, but it was quickly extinguished by the golden blood and so on. Situ Minglang's sword could only cause some minor injuries to Wu Yu. However, after Situ Minglang's magic weapon was cut off, Wu Yu continued to slash wildly with the sword in a rage. Situ Minglang could not imagine that his magic weapon would be cut off, and he directly crashed into Wu Yu's sword and was directly split in half from head to toe by Wu Yu's overbearing sword. Ah! The thunder demon split into two halves and flew to Wu Yu's left and right. Situ Minglang's screams only lasted for a moment before they stopped. The two halves of the body that flew out to the left and right, under the shattering of thunder, turned into charcoal before they landed. When they fell to the ground, they were like two pieces of charred wood, and there was no human form at all. Collect. After killing people, Wu Yu became more irritable, but the situation was not serious now. He controlled himself and was calm. He finally lifted the state of the fairy ape transformation and returned to human form. However, the clothes on the upper body were gone, leaving only a pair of trousers, which were still wearable. These were the trousers that Wu Yu specially selected for the fairy ape transformation. On the Duxiantai, you can see that the sunset has set and sunk into the mountains. The sunset glow has also begun to dim. It is estimated that it will disappear soon. The night on the Green Mountains is also beginning to fall. The darkness is like a giant beast, starting to cross the sky. There are many more shadows on the Duxiantai. The change in the sky was accompanied by the reduction of Wu Yu's height, the changes in his bones and internal organs, and the transformation of his face from ape to human. The hair on his body shrank back, and his skin became smooth again. It was impossible to imagine that such skin could grow hair. This scene will probably be fixed in the minds of everyone present forever. The setting sun, the golden ape, the two halves of the charred corpse, the scattered rocks, and countless shocked eyes. Everything was quiet. Damn, am I blind? Mo Shish's folding fan fell to the ground, and his eyes were about to fall out. There must be many people who are as confused as him, but they are not as funny as him. Looking around, those eyes of awe, fear, and admiration all show that from this moment on, at least Wu Yu has soared to the sky. In Tongtian sword section, Sidu Minglang did not remove Wu Yu's stumbling block, but became Wu Yu's stepping stone. The charred corpse drowned all the myths and glories it had created. A peerless evildoer fell here. However, a more terrifying evildoer was born here. The Duxiantai, where true immortals are born. Of course, Wu Yu still has Lan Huayun to face. You beast, you dare to kill my disciple, the sharp and creepy voice of the supreme protector of the religion came to my ears. /U003ch//U003e. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qingyang. Chapter 33. It is said that Lan Huayun is a golden elixir immortal. The golden elixir immortal is above all others, such as Su Yanli, Mo Shishu, etc., but they are all ants in front of her. B/U003e. In the entire Tongtian sword sect, only Feng Xiai could suppress her. Although it is said that Wu Yu has undergone extraordinary changes from a year ago to the present. His rise has shocked the entire Tongtian sword sect, making people curious about him and even more awe of him. However, as long as Lan Huayun wants to kill him here, that makes sense, because he killed Lan Huayun's direct disciple, and his current identity is only an outer disciple. Oops. In an instant, Lan Huayun stood up from the thousand sword seat. The moment Wu Yu came into contact with his eyes, he was shocked to feel that he was on the bottom of a sea of 1,000 feet deep. The surrounding water had a terrifying and huge pressure, suppressing him and making it difficult to breathe. Under the power of this immortal under pressure, for just a moment, Wu Yu almost felt like he was about to die from being suppressed. Lan Huayun, so scary. Because of his incredible rise this year, Wu Yu began to feel arrogant, especially after defeating Sidu Minglang. But now Lan Huayun's terror has given him a slap in the face. It turns out that although I have achieved a small amount of success, I am still far from it. There are many people in this world who can still suppress me. Never sit in a well and look at the sky. Bearing the pressure of this vast sea, Wu Yu warned himself deeply. He recorded the terrifying feeling that Lan Huayun brought to him today. This woman's blue ocean-like eyes, waterfall-like long hair, and seductive nose were all so noble and inviolable. To fight against them, even Wu Yu today feels a sense of shame for blaspheming the immortal. Wu Yu, you broke the rules of my swordsmanship and killed my disciples on the immortal fighting platform. I will give you the death penalty. Lan Huayun's majestic and indifferent voice echoed between heaven and earth. Her decisiveness and firmness surpassed countless people, deeply suppressing the hearts of everyone present. Wu Yu almost reached the gate of hell, and the terrifying squeezing force on his body told him that if he went any further, he would be in the real underworld. Am I going to die here? Wu Yu was very unconvinced. After finally defeating Situ Ming Lang, he finally got the chance to return to Wudu for revenge. How could he die here? In his body, the blood of the immortal ape was flowing, affecting his will. At this time, he clenched his fists and gritted his teeth, unwilling to close his eyes. Through the deep ocean, Wu Yu saw the aloof woman. She was indifferent, proud, defensive, and gathered the aura of heaven and earth. She was like a god who saved all living beings. In his eyes, Wu Yu was a heinous demon. Suddenly, Wu Yu had an idea in his mind that he must suppress him today and ask for advice in the future. It is really treasonous to have such thoughts about the Supreme Protector. However, Wu Yu himself was extremely daring, and meeting the indestructible body gave him the most precious, lawless state of mind. Wu Yu knew that he would not die today. Wu Yu, from now on, you are my fifth disciple of Feng Xiya. Suddenly, a golden light suddenly appeared on the sea surface, as if a huge golden sword energy penetrated, breaking through the sea. The endless sea water transpired in this golden light, turning into thick fog and flying across the sky, and that the heavy pressure on Wu Yu completely disappeared. Only then did Wu Yu realize that he was still standing on the immortal fighting platform, and in front of him stood a black-haired immortal. The black-haired immortal had his back to Wu Yu, his hands behind his back, and he was looking directly at Lan Huayun on the throne of 10,000 swords. Going up and down, it seems calm, but in fact there is a lot of impact. Wu Yu, why don't you kneel down? At this time, Mo Shishu and Su Yanli both flew over quickly, arrived at Wu Yu's side, and winked at Wu Yu. Only then did Wu Yu realize what he had done over the past year. The wish was finally fulfilled at this moment. Plus today, this was the third time Feng Shui saved his life. Repaying kindness is Wu Yu's fundamental principle. He recognized Feng Shui's ability and temperament. He considered it a great blessing to be able to worship Feng Shui as his teacher in this life, especially in the eyes of everyone. He reacted quickly, knelt down, and kowtowed, and said loudly, "Disciple Wu Yu, pay your respects to the master." Even if this is done. Judging from today's situation, it was Situ Minglang who was the first to use the forbidden Taoist technique after his defeat. As for Wu Yu who killed someone in the end, he had completely lost control at that point. Therefore, he did not violate the Kendo rules, but Situ Minglang deserved his death. And Lan Huayun is still guilty of covering up. If he is really investigated, it is impossible for Lan Huayun to fight against Feng Xiya today. That's why she wanted to kill Wu Yu while Feng Shui was away. But it's too late now. Feng Shui has already accepted Wu Yu as his disciple on the spot. Wu Yu has become a direct disciple and his status has greatly increased. Lan Huayun can no longer ravage him at will. After Wu Yu finished kowtowing, the scene turned out to be as quiet as death. He raised his head and looked over Feng Xiya, whose back was facing him, and saw the blue flower Yun looking at Feng Xiya. He could vaguely see her. His body was shaking slightly, naturally he was angry. Snort. She turned around and stepped on a long aqua sword, penetrated into the clouds and disappeared from everyone's eyes. It is estimated that the conflict between her and Feng Shui was not a matter of a day or two. Lan Huayun was obviously defeated today, and she would only be humiliating herself by staying here. Therefore, she left directly, but I'm afraid the conflict between the two became even greater. Well, Wu Yu, you hid so deeply. Today, you have given old man Feng some face and prestige. Mo Shisha bumped Wu Yu's shoulder and winked. Senior brother, shut up. Su Yanli was speechless at his careless look. Finally reaching this moment, Wu Yu was extremely excited. In his expectation, Feng Shui turned around and faced Wu Yu with a pair of deep black eyes, making it difficult to see his emotions clearly. The headmaster came in person, and the disciples around him remained silent. After all, the number of times the Supreme Headmaster appeared was quite rare. Wu Yu is the one who truly reaches heaven in one step. I didn't expect that he would be the winner today. It's pitiful that Situ Ming Lang, who had just condensed his energy, was still a peerless evildoer and had a bright future, yet he died here at an early age. If Wu Yu shows mercy, our Tongtian sword sect will have a peerless master in the future. Unfortunately, Situ Ming Lang has passed away. Wu Yu has become the envy and awe of all the disciples of the Tongtian sword sect, including most of the core disciples. Logically speaking, his future will be greater than that of Situ Ming Lang. Now, the disciples are watching his apprenticeship with envy. Disciple of the headmaster, this identity is the dream of all disciples of Tongtian sword sect. Even the strongest core disciples may not have this opportunity. For Wu Yu, he remembered the first time he met Feng Shui. At that time, he wanted to become his disciple, but the reality made Wu Yu fall into the abyss. But today, something that once felt out of reach, like a dream, has actually come true. Wu Yu's heart was blank. I'm afraid that Feng Shui looked at him with mixed feelings in his heart. But he did not show it, but with a serious face, he walked up to Wu Yu in a few steps and said, Wu Yu, becoming my Feng Shui disciple not only requires you to have heaven-defying qualifications, but also requires you to have a hard will. The most important thing is to have the right heart to punish evil and promote good, and to slay demons. First of all, I want to make it clear to you that if you let me know that you have done something unforgivable and sinful, I will not only expel you from the school, but I will also kill you with my own hands. Understandable? Clear. This is Feng Shui's temper. He is upright and upright, so he has the hardest time enduring evil. Under the spotlight, everyone witnessed the transformation of Wu Yu's identity. According to my rules, you haven't condensed Qi yet, so I will not give you the mountain peak, nor will I give you resources equivalent to your senior brothers and sisters, because those resources can only be used by the Qi condensing realm. Everything is waiting for you to condense Qi. Let's talk about it after finishing it. By chance, you have become the supervisor of the immortal kingdom, so when you return, as long as you succeed in condensing energy, I will give you the mountain and the resources to practice Taoism. Wu Yu understood that Feng Shui hoped that he could concentrate on concentrating his energy and truly embark on the path of cultivating immortality, and then he would give him powerful help. The most important thing for Wu Yu now is his foundation. Wu Yu's most important thing now is to return to Wuda for revenge, so he doesn't pay much attention to things like mountain peaks. Ascetics are very particular about their own territory, but Wu Yu doesn't have this concept yet. However, I can give you a magic weapon. At this moment, Feng Shui said something that made people even more excited and envious. For Wu Yu, there is no way to practice Taoism now, but as for the magic weapon, although the mortal body forging realm cannot bring out the maximum effect of the magic weapon, it is at least stronger than ordinary soldiers. Taking the demon-suppressing sword as an example, if it were not in Wu Yu's hand, it would be impossible to cut off the thunder-inducing sword. At this time, Feng Shui waved. Suddenly, the sound of tinkling bells came from the direction of Tongtian Immortal Palace in the distance. It was the sound of the vibration of magical instruments, and the sound became louder and louder. The disciples were surprised and looked up in shock. They could vaguely see, in the direction of Tongtian Peak, dozens of rays of light pierced into the evening clouds. For a moment, a rainbow seemed to appear in the sky in the dark night, so brilliant. Ding ding. In an instant, the colorful lights all gathered on the top of Feng Shui's head, making a sharp scream. They turned out to be dozens of long swords, some long, some short, some wide, some thin, some huge, some tiny, colorful, with various attributes and powers. Some are burning with flames, some are like lightning swords, flashing with thunder, some are hidden in the darkness, like a bloodline, some are thick, like a mountain. The magic weapon is flying. Most of the disciples present did not have magical weapons. So many magical weapons and long swords suddenly appeared. To them, this was simply the most beautiful sight in the world. Wu Yu was also frightened by the bustling magic weapons. Feng Xiya is really a big deal. Wu Yu, when you enter the world of monasticism, the first magic weapon is very important. Many people will only use one type of magic weapon in their lives. I, the Tongtian sword sect, use swords as my cultivation. In your case, I suggest you choose two types of magic weapons, gold and fire swords. Mo Shishu leaned into Wu Yu's ear and said. Chapter 5 broke out today. There will be an update tonight. It seems that many readers want to be a supporting role in the book. It is very simple. Come to the book review area, leave a review of more than 10 words, and declare that you want to apply for a supporting role. The madman will add essence to the post so that I can view it more easily. Everyone should leave their name in the reply to the post, preferably in an ancient style. /U003ch//U003e. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 34. All Swords. Obviously, Su Yanli and Mo Shishu had experienced such battles, so they suggested to Wu Yu that these were Feng Xia's magic weapons, and there might be some treasures among them. Wu Yu, among the 81 magic weapons, there are times when you can only choose one. The good ones will be envied by even your senior brothers, while the inferior ones are just ordinary magic weapons, not as good as the Thunder Sword. You only have one chance to choose. What you can choose depends on your destiny. Feng Shui controlled all the magic weapons and displayed them in front of Wu Yu. It is said that the ability to control magical weapons is called sword control. You need to go to the Qi condensation realm and use magic power to control it. Situ Minglang had used the Thunder Sword before. But the headmaster is much more powerful, and can actually control dozens of long swords at the same time. It seems that after becoming a golden elixir immortal, you can still fly with a sword. In the entire Tongtian sword sect, only the headmaster and the guardian should be able to fly with a sword. Wu Yu was still immersed in this Taoist art called sword controlling technique. In fact, Feng Shui let him choose by himself, and it was also based on his ability. It is better to teach people to fish than to teach them to fish. He hoped that his disciples would not need to be protected by himself, but would go through endless hardships and truly become talents. Wu Yu. Su Yanli reminded him to choose a magic weapon. Oh! Happiness came so suddenly that Wu Yu was in a daze. With so many magic weapons in front of him, which one should he choose? He listened to Mo Shishu and cultivated his own indestructible body. He estimated that the two types of gold and fire would be more suitable for him, so he focused on these two types when choosing. Blue Flame Sword, Purple Fire Heart Sword, Ninefold Killing Sword. Almost all the sword hilts were engraved with the names of the magical weapons. Wu Yu was dazzled by the sight. After turning around a few times, he still had a hard time choosing among a few of them, because they all had their own attractions. What should I choose? Wu Yu, who had always been decisive, hesitated at this time. Wu Yu Feng Shui was not satisfied that it took him so long to choose. His first 4 disciples were very decisive in the selection process. Generally speaking, if he is not decisive in this regard, it is because Wu Yu himself does not have the ability to find a magical weapon that suits him. This is not the performance that a peerless genius should have. But Wu Yu just couldn't make a choice. He looked at the selected magic weapons and long swords, and he was always struggling, unable to make a choice. If it were Su Yanli and the others, they would basically know at a glance what is most suitable for them, and there would be no need to worry at all. Choose your magic weapon, Feng Shui reminded. Because of the pressure from Feng Xia, Wu Yu could only choose one of them at will. When he walked towards that magic weapon, he found that he didn't feel excited at all. Obviously I got a magic weapon, why am I not as excited as when I got the demon-suppressing sword? Wu Yu was very distressed. He walked towards the other one in awe. When he looked at the long sword, he was depressed again. He still didn't have any sense of accomplishment. Wu Yu, Feng Shui thought there was something strange about him. What's going on? Wu Yu took a few steps back, directly away from the range of the many magic weapons, and then looked at Feng Shuiya in confusion, while Feng Shuiya became a little impatient and said, "Why are you so, mother-in-law? There are 81 magic weapons and long swords, covering almost all attributes. Is it possible that there is nothing suitable for you?" In fact, he knew that one or two of them were very suitable for Wu Yu. Those two were exactly what Wu Yu had chosen just now, but he gave up. However, Feng Shui's words reminded Wu Yu. He has never thought that among so many magic weapons, there is no one that is truly suitable for him. When he thinks about it carefully, it is precisely because there is no one that he likes at first glance that he is entangled and struggling among other magic weapons. After waking up with a start, the dream suddenly appeared in Wu Yu's mind. That giant pillar of the sky, soaring into the sky, suppresses the world. That is, the Ruyi golden cudgel. When visualizing the mental ape is holding a stick, with a black middle and golden ends. If nothing unexpected happens, it should also be a Ruyi golden cudgel. Just now, when he was fighting Situ Minglang after his immortal ape transformation, Wu Yu felt very uncomfortable holding the demon-suppressing sword in his hand, because after he had the change he had now, he had honed his skills to a great extent. 10 years of swordsmanship turned out to be a weapon no longer suitable for him. The 81 types of swords are not suitable for their attributes, but, the type of sword itself is not suitable for Wu Yu. This was the first magic weapon in his life. In the dark, he couldn't choose a sword. He is suitable for sticks, just like the giant pillar that supports the sky. That is what is suitable for Wu Yu. Swords are flexible and changeable, while sticks have a single will, but just like Wu Yu's pursuit of Tao, they are simple, direct, hot, and direct. Nothing more than a hit was nothing more than a stab, but it firmly occupied Wu Yu's heart. In the world, sticks are blunt weapons, and their lethality is not as good as swords and guns. Most people would not choose it, but Wu Yu is different. Ever since the golden cudgel entered his body, everything about him has been made for sticks. When this thought appeared, his inner choice became more determined than ever. He chose the stick, simple and direct. Therefore, in Feng Xia's doubts, he raised his head and said with extremely firm eyes, "Master, you are right, among the 81 magic weapon long swords, there is no one suitable for me." This was the first time that he called him his master. Of course, Wu Yu also had this capital. Oh, Feng Shui was curious. He could tolerate Wu Yu's specialness, but he couldn't tolerate Wu Yu's mediocrity. Wu Yu was mediocre just now, but now this statement is special, so he asked, "Then which method do you want? As long as I can find a long sword, I will get it for you." He is very confident and aloof, so naturally he does not believe that he will not get what Wu Yu wants. In this case, Wu Yu was not polite. He said, "What I want is very simple. It is best if it is gold and fire, or has similar attributes. The most important thing is that it should not be a long sword, but a sword, a stick." Sticks. When the last two words were spoken, everyone at the scene felt like they had eaten shit. This is the Tongtian sword section. The supreme leader, the master of swordsmanship, accepts a disciple, and the disciple actually wants a stick as the first magical weapon. Holy shit, am I deaf? Mo Shishu almost choked on his saliva. Su Yanli even bit her red lips, obviously anxious for Wu Yu. She knew Feng Shui's temper, but Wu Yu actually wanted a stick. That was simply not facing Feng Shui's inheritance. Fortunately, Feng Shui was still emotionally stable, maybe because he was in a good mood today, so he couldn't help but laugh and said, "You want a stick to make a utensil, are you trying to trick a monkey?" Speaking of this, he suddenly remembered that Wu Yu's weird immortal ape transformation was a golden ape. With Wu Yu's talent, even if he uses a sword, it should be an ape or a giant sword. Wu Yu knew there would be trouble, but he was not afraid because he was determined in his heart. He said seriously, "Return to master." I explained that I need a stick after extremely careful consideration. Some changes occurred in my body today, just like the immortal ape transformation just now. Starting from all aspects of my blood and spirit, I clearly told myself that my weapon in this life is the stick. I know that this is the Tongtian sword sect, and you are the master, good at swordsmanship inheritance. If I choose anything else, his inheritance to me will not be so great. However, I feel that this is my destiny and I cannot refuse. Wu Yu said it very sincerely. After all, Feng Shui is good at swords, not only the art of swords, but also the spirit of swords. He is a swordsman. He accepted Wu Yu as his disciple just to pass on the legacy, but if Wu Yu chooses another path, it means that Feng Shui's legacy to him will basically not be much. Feng Shui is an aloof person, and he is really unhappy that Wu Yu made such a choice. But as Wu Yu said, this may be his fate. Feng Shui believes in fate, and coincidentally, with his personality, he prefers people who don't follow the ordinary path. His inheritance has already been inherited by 4 disciples, including Wu Yu. He just feels it is a pity because Wu Yu may have to walk his own way in the future. That's all, this is your choice. As the master, I respect your choice. Feng Shui went through some changes in his heart. With his personality, although Wu Yu's choice made him a little unhappy, but in his heart it is clear that Wu Yu has the right to make a choice based on his own situation. This dissatisfaction is only due to his personal reasons. At this point, except for a few people who understand Wu Yu, most people think that Wu Yu is already a fool. He has just started, and he has almost rejected everything that Feng Shui will pass on to him in the future, including experience, Taoism, and so on. Being in the Tongtian sword sect but not practicing swordsmanship is indeed an outlier. With Feng Shui's words, Wu Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief. He understood that this was definitely a good teacher, because he didn't even interfere with the most fundamental things. Wu Yu understood how depressing his teachers were with his choice. It was as if he had a teacher in Suqiao Palace who taught him how to govern a country, but Wu Yu wanted to learn how to do business from him. It was the same reason. However, I don't have this type of magic weapon in my hand. Anyone who has it can exchange it with me for a magic weapon. Feng Shui looked around. There will always be someone with this huge Tongtian sword sect. Me, at this moment, Elder Muji jumped out quickly, landed in front of the headmaster, and said, "Headmaster, I have a demon subduing stick, which is hidden in my Muhuan mountain. It is made of gold. It is made of red heart gold and weighs 3,000 kilograms. There is a Luo formation on it, which is enough for Wu Yu to use within 10 years. Go and get it quickly." Feng Shui waved his hand. Obviously, this treasure is of little use to Elder Muji. It is a great favor to give it to Wu Yu at this time. Elder Muji rode on a snow-white Tianyun Peng and left quickly. Tianyun Peng is a kind of spiritual beast. It is said that it is also a descendant of fairy beasts, but it is stronger and faster than Tianyun Peng. Not long after, Elder Muji returned. He already held a stick in his hand. It was about 3 fingers thick and 7 feet long. Standing on the ground, it was more than a foot taller than Wu Yu. If Wu Yu was in the state of an immortal ape, he would probably be like this. The subduing demon stick is just at the level of eyebrows. Muji, take a sword. Feng Shui took the demon suppressing stick, held it in his hand and turned it around a few times, feeling very satisfied. "Headmaster, this can't be done. My demon subduing stick happens to be idle, so I'll give it to Wu Yu," Muji said respectfully. "Stop talking nonsense. I'm giving you a gift to meet my disciples. Do you need to take advantage of me?" Take it away quickly. Don't talk nonsense with me. At this time, Wu Yu's eyes were fully focused on the demon stick, and his blood was already boiling, so it didn't matter what they were talking about. /U003ch/U003E Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 35. In the blink of an eye /U003E. The starry sky in the dark night is dotted with stars. Looking around, the boundless blue mountains are still brightly lit. Countless palaces are like pearls and stars embedded in the dark mountains. At night, this fairyland looks like a river of stars. Of course, this grand beauty can only be seen from such a high position as Duxian Terrace. There were two people standing on the Duxian platform, namely Wu Yu and the headmaster, Supreme Feng Shui. Feng Shui put his hands behind his back and looked at the fairy mountain he controlled. He didn't speak for a long time and seemed to be deep in thought. Wu Yu was playing with a dark golden stick in his hand. The two ends of the stick were somewhat dark red in color. There were vague red flames swimming around the two ends, flashing and burning. This was the demon subduing stick. The demon subduing stick is 7 feet long, taller than Wu Yu when standing on the ground, and weighs 3,000 kilograms. It is a bit difficult to wield and use, but Wu Yu can't put it down. He has truly found a weapon that suits him in life. Simple, direct, and brutal. It can be seen that you love this magical weapon very much. However, it seems that you have no research on sticks. I have a basic stick code. It explains the method, technique, and spirit of using this weapon. How to use the magical weapon can never be separated from the basics, so although this basic stick code is a mortal thing, it is very important to you. If you want to truly use it and integrate your spirit with this weapon, you will need at least tens of thousands. A battle Feng Shui turned around and threw a 5-finger thick book to Wu Yu. In the night wind, his robes rustled, his sword-like eyebrows and tiger eyes, this peerless swordsman's demeanor made it hard for Wu Yu. Make eye contact with him. Everyone else had left. Wu Yu was about to leave the Tongtian sword sect in a few days, so Feng Shui left him behind because he probably had something to explain. Once a teacher, always a father, not to mention the benefactor who saved his life 3 times, the immortal golden pill. Wu Yu respectfully accepted the book and said, everything is inseparable from its roots. This basic stick code is the root of this weapon. Disciples will study it with great concentration. It's just a pity that the kendo that I have been pondering for nearly 10 years has to be abandoned. As a direct disciple of Feng Shui, he doesn't practice swordsmanship. Wu Yu felt a little guilty about Feng Shui, but this did not stop him from loving the demon subduing stick in his hand. Seeing Wu Yu's blazing eyes, Feng Shui finally put aside the dissatisfaction in his heart, and instead appreciated it more, saying, you have a yearning heart, which is an important capital for your future cultivation. Dare to give up on me for your own pursuit, it's a good road for you. Today, even the aloof Feng Shui seems to recognize Wu Yu's performance and his choice at this moment. His tiger eyes stared at Wu Yu with some changes, but more of them showed admiration. Come here, let me ask you a few things, but as a master, he must understand clearly the questions in his mind. Not just him, Wu Yu's performance today was cast in mystery in everyone's eyes. Master, please speak. Wu Yu temporarily put down the demon subduing stick. Feng Shui said, since you have become my disciple, I have to understand your life experience. Please explain it to me in detail. There was nothing to hold back, so Wu Yu told all about his experiences growing up in Wudu and then being framed and expelled by immortal Haoshan. The fact that the Haoshan immortal raises a snake demon is extremely unethical to the immortal way, but Feng Shui seems to be used to it. I see, you went to Wudu this time for revenge. I won't stop you. The path to immortality is bumpy, and you need to rely on your own strength to open up your own path. Don't worry, you are my direct disciple, Xuanhuan Dao sect will not quarrel with my Tongtian sword sect because of the life or death of a disciple, Feng Shui said calmly. This is different from what Su Yanli said. Su Yanli wanted Wu Yu to take revenge secretly, but Feng Shui didn't care about that. With his words, Wu Yu felt more at ease. He won't have to worry too much in Wudu in the future. If you want to kill, you must kill. As expected, many things have changed since I had the headmaster as my master. The second question is about your inheritance to Feng Shui. The first thing may not matter, but when he said the second thing, his deep eyes stared into Wu Yu's eyes. At that moment Wu Yu felt as if the wind and snow cliff had almost entered his body. I know. It may be that the handyman named Sun Wudao gave you something that caused your change. It should be a method of body forging that allowed you to have such a domineering power in the realm of mortal body forging. He can even transform into a golden ape with the power of a demon. What Feng Shui said was full of shock to Wu Yu. Master! Don't be nervous. You can get these. This is your destiny. I mentioned this today just to tell you a truth. Master, please speak. Wu Yu thought he was going to hand over his indestructible body. After all, what he showed was too outrageous. However, Feng Xiya is obviously not such a person. He was a little harsh and said, you need to know that our Dongsheng divine continent has an endless and long history. During this period, countless ancient immortals and monsters appeared across the world, and countless battles between immortals and monsters broke out, even at this moment. There are countless cultivators fighting. In this endless history, geniuses and monsters are as numerous as the sands of the Ganges River. Among them, the outstanding ones, who have understood the way of heaven, will leave their inheritance when they die. Even in the blue waves of the mountains, there are countless inheritances. But even I didn't notice it. At this point, Wu Yu roughly knew what he meant. Master is saying that there are countless inheritances in this world, and I only got one of them. Maybe I am special in the Tongtian sword sect, but compared with history and the world, I am still a speck of dust. Don't be proud of this good fortune. Complacency and arrogance are all the more important in the future, right? This chapter is not over. Please click on the next page to continue reading. You are very smart. Feng Shui felt more relieved when she saw that he could understand. From his perspective, Wu Yu's excellent bodybuilding method is not too special, and he has seen similar ones. Over the years, he has also seen many young people who were elated because they had received good fortune, and considered themselves to be extraordinary evildoers, but they died in the middle of the journey. Wu Yu thought to himself, it seems that in the eyes of a golden elixir immortal like Master, my immortal ape transformation is not too special. Unfortunately, I was still worried that he might take my inheritance, but I was really overthinking it. He had great trust in Feng Shui, but the immortal path was difficult, and few people would not be tempted when encountering a valuable treasure. If it were Wu Yu himself, when his disciple had a treasure that even he envied, he would also keep it for the time being. Okay, go and follow your own path. Feng Shui waved his hand, as if he wanted to stay on the immortal fighting platform. There was no way to repay the teacher's kindness. Wu Yu bowed deeply and left resolutely. His goal was Wudu. For this moment of returning to Wudu, his chest was burning red with heat. That bloody feud, that unparalleled humiliation, that frame-up and slander, the perpetrators must always pay the price. In the eyes of Wudu people, they would never have imagined that the prince of Suqiao, who was rumored to have died in the snake demon's mouth, was on his way back to Wudu. Wanjianmen. This is the south gate of the Tongtian sword section. After passing through this gate, it is no longer within the scope of the Tongtian sword section. Of course, you still have to climb tens of thousands of mountains before you can see people. Viewed from a distance, the 10,000 swords gate is actually made up of countless giant swords with a height of more than 10 feet, inserted on a mountain peak. However, these tens of thousands of giant swords are not real swords, but carved out of rocks. The stone sword was cut and carved by headmaster Feng Shui himself. Wu Yu walked through the jungle composed of tens of thousands of boulder swords. Looking at the flat and cold sword marks on those boulder swords, he imagined in his mind the wind and snow cliff flying through the air, with the magic weapon in his hand flying across the boundless boulder. The image of cutting off long strips and then carving them into huge stone swords filled my heart with shock and awe. Nowadays, there are many traces of rain erosion and scorching sun on the huge stone sword, which shows that Wang Jianmen has been there for some time. These are all master's works. Being his disciple is the greatest luck in our lives. Su Yanli was moved by the scene and sighed softly. Mo Shishu smacked his lips and said, "Don't tell me, although old man Feng is a bit stubborn, he is really a good person. He has secretly done a lot of things for our senior brothers these years." Wu Yu followed them and listened to Mo Shishu recount the legendary deeds of Feng Xiya. He is the legendary swordsman of dozens of mortal countries around him. Wherever his sword is directed, all demons and ghosts will be wiped out. With him in charge, the Tongtian sword sect can enjoy the vast aura of the Bibo Mountains. In the blink of an eye, they passed through the giant stone sword, that is, through the Wanjian gate. Looking ahead, they saw endless mountains shrouded in turbid yellow mist. That position on the horizon was the human world. "Junior brother, we will be sent here." Su Yanli turned around and stood. Among the thousands of swords, this woman's eyes were soft and completely different from the first time he saw her. At this time, she had already seen Wu Yu think of them as siblings. Feng Shui's direct disciple has a very good relationship. "Thank you, senior brother and senior sister. Today I went to Dongyu Kingdom, and they came to see me off in person. This is a sign of affection." After spending a few days together, Feng Xia's family now feels like Wu Yu's family. Su Yanli, who looks cold on the outside but is gentle on the inside, and Mo Shishu, who looks cool and has a righteous heart on the inside. "Don't leave in a hurry, we both have treasures for you." Just as Wu Yu was about to leave, Mo Shishu said mysteriously while shaking his folding fan. /U003ch//U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 36. I didn't expect there would be a gift. In front of Wu Yu, first of all, Su Yanli took out an item from nowhere. Wu Yu looked carefully and found it was a mask. The key point was that the mask looked like a monkey face, which was a bit similar to Wu Yu's face after he transformed into a fairy ape. This is the monster monkey mask, which is made of a special material. It can block some attacks and protect the head a little. However, the biggest function for you is to cover up your identity. After all, you have just returned to Wudu. In order to facilitate your actions, it is best not to expose your identity directly. Su Yanli thought carefully and put the slightly cold monkey mask in Wu Yu's hand. In fact, this coincided with Wu Yu's idea. He was going to find a way to cover up his identity when he arrived in the mortal world, and then return to Wudu. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. With this monkey mask, this step was omitted. Wu Yu liked this mask very much and put it on his face directly to cover his face. Compared to before, he is now taller, and his face is covered by the monkey mask that fits him just right. Because of the change in strength, he is full of blood and looks like a giant beast standing on his head. Even those who are familiar with him may find it difficult to tell his true identity. Now Wu Yu is wearing the monkey mask and carrying a long cloth-wrapped demon-suppressing stick on his back. He has some of the flavor of the Monkey King in the visualization of the mind monkey. "Zhenjun, if I look at you a few more times, even your senior brother can't control himself," Mo Shishu joked. While speaking, he untied a dark yellow cloth bag from his waist and handed it to Wu Yu. Wu Yu took a closer look and found that the material of the cloth bag was no different from ordinary cloth, but there was a word Na embroidered on it. And every stroke of this word Na seemed to have an incomprehensible meaning. It seemed that this word was alive. Wu Yu thought that this cloth bag might also be considered a magic weapon. Of course, it was a magic weapon that could not attack. Junior brother, do you know the formation? Mo Shishu asked. Wu Yu shook his head hurriedly. It is said that this is a very profound door. Mo Shishu said, the formation is too profound. It is said that only the immortals and monsters in the ancient times are truly proficient. We in the condensation stage do not understand it at all. Even our master, a Jindan immortal, can only copy the formation left over from the ancient times. Of course, the copier does not know the true way of the formation, so the power is limited. The effect of the formation is too wide. If it is used on weapons, the weapons can be turned into magic tools. If it is used on talisman paper, it can be turned into a powerful talisman. It can also be directly arranged between heaven and earth, and on all things, to form various battle and defense formations. The powerful magic tools and talismans we can use now are forged by ancient immortals and monsters, while the ordinary ones are copied by Jindan immortals of the level of master. Wu Yu understood a little bit of what Mo Shishu said. He is not even at the level of chi condensation now, so it is actually useless to know these. As for the origin of magic tools and talismans, he knows some, but not as detailed as Mo Shishu said today. Then, Mo Shishu's eyes shifted to Wu Yu's hands and said, ordinary magic tools, including those of Master's Tongtian Fairy Palace, your demon subduing stick, or the Sumuru bag in your hand, are all made by Jindan immortals in the past 10,000 years, copying ancient formation diagrams and drawing them on weapons, talisman paper, and cloth. For example, your demon subduing stick has the Luo formation. This Sumuru bag has the Nazi formation diagram. It is because of this that the demon subduing stick and the Sumi bag have the miraculous effects that ordinary warriors imagine. I see. Wu Yu had only a vague understanding of this before, and it was only after Mo Shishu explained it that he knew where the magic tools and talismans came from. He looked at the Sumuru bag in his hand and roughly guessed its function. Because of the different copyists and the different Nazi formation diagrams, the Sumi bags are naturally good and bad. The best ones are said to be able to hold a mountain. Our Sumuru bag is relatively ordinary. Even if it is full, it is estimated that there is only about 3 feet of space in length, width, and height. Brother gave you this small magic tool today, so you don't have to expose all your belongings. Hearing Mo Shishu's words, Wu Yu was shocked. The art of the formation diagram is indeed magical. A mere cloth bag, plus a Nazi formation diagram, can actually hold a mountain. Of course, that level of Sumuru bag is just a legend to Mo Shishu. Wu Yu followed his instructions, opened the Sumuru bag, reached in and took a handful. There was a lot of gold prepared by Mo Shishu, as well as some healing medicines. This time when Wu Yu returned to Wudu, he brought a lot of things, including some classics and chi condensation pills. Because the demon subduing stick was too heavy and the crane could not bear the weight, Mo Shishu gave Wu Yu a Tianyun Peng. These sundries were either placed in his arms or hung on the Tianyun Peng. He couldn't even bring some gold. This Sumuru bag really helped Wu Yu a lot. Thank you, senior brother. Wu Yu quickly put all the sundries on his body into the Sumuru bag. Such as the basic stick manual and the golden flame dragon slaying art. Mo Shishu chuckled and said, it's a pity that you chose this demon slaying stick. If it is an ordinary magic weapon and long sword, it can be placed in the Sumuru bag without any problem. Your demon slaying stick is so long that it can't be put in. You'd better carry it honestly. They didn't have swords on them, and they were obviously stored in the Sumuru bag. Even so, Wu Yu was still very satisfied. After all, this was a magic weapon. Even many disciples in the condensation realm did not have a Sumuru bag. Wu Yu, you have just entered the immortal path, and you don't know that there are more disputes in the immortal path. Especially many monsters like to snatch the Sumuru bags of cultivators. The Sumuru bag is convenient, but if it is taken away, then there will be nothing left. You must be careful, Su Yanli warned. This chapter is not over yet, please click on the next page to continue reading. Wu Yu understood. The so-called killing and robbing, just snatch the other party's Sumuru bag directly. Next, Mo Shishu talked about some precautions for the use of the Sumuru bag. For example, you can't put living things in it, and you can't put a Sumuru bag into another Sumuru bag, otherwise it will cause the Nazi Gentoo to collapse and the Sumuru bag to explode. Finally, this is the most important thing, the Immortal Kingdom Supervision Order. After the demon monkey mask and the Sumuru bag, Mo Shishu took the last thing, which was a token. The overall appearance was like a small broad-bladed sword, with the word Tong engraved on one side and the word Tian engraved on the other side. You need to show the Immortal Kingdom Supervision Order to the disciples of Xuanhuan Dao sect and let him get out. If other immortals enter Dongyu Wu Kingdom, seeing this order is like seeing Tong Tian sword section. If the other party ignores the Immortal Kingdom Supervision Order and messes up in your Immortal Kingdom, it means they are against my Tong Tian sword sect. Wu Yu took the token and felt cold, but Mo Shishu's words made Wu Yu feel warm. Yes, this is the feeling of being protected by the Immortal Gate. Now Wu Yu has been closely connected with the Tong Tian sword sect. Master has been working overnight these days, copying an unknown small formation diagram on this token. If you are in danger of life and break this fairyland supervision order in advance, Master will know it immediately. However, if this happens, it will take some time for us to rush to Dongguo, and the details will depend on you. Su Yanli knew that Wu Yu's trip was to the battlefield, so he was still worried. Junior brother, old man Feng is very good to you. When we went to be the fairyland supervisors, he didn't make any formation diagrams for us, Mo Shishu said enviously. Holding this cold token, Wu Yu could indeed feel Feng Shui's attention to him. Or maybe it was his own character and his choice of the future, let him praise it. No matter what, this is a favor. Go. If you leave, no one will disturb me from pursuing your junior sister, Mo Shishu laughed. Shut up, Su Yanli glared at him, as if she was used to it, and then said to Wu Yu, take care. Goodbye. Wu Yu put the Immortal Kingdom Supervision Order into the Sumuru bag, carried the demon subduing stick on his back, jumped onto the huge snow-white Tianyun pen, faced the east, and instantly soared into the sky, disappearing into the bright light of the rising sun. Looking back, Mo Shishu was waving his folding fan in the Wanjian sect and bidding farewell to him. And Su Yanli showed a smile, a little worried, a little reluctant, but more of recognition and expectations for Wu Yu. Coming to Tongtian sword sect, Wu Yu returned with a full load. Sun Bo gave me good luck. Master, senior brothers and sisters also gave me a lot of things, so that I can be reborn today and return to Wudu. They are all full of expectations for me. Even if the immortal way is fierce, they are willing to get close to me, cultivate me, and give me a future. Wu Yu remembered this kindness deeply in his heart. In his heart, gratitude and hatred are very clear. Now he is galloping in the light of the morning Sunday. Behind him is the land of great gratitude, and in front is the sea of hatred. At the beginning, the broken souls were scattered, the throne was abolished, and he was exiled. At the beginning, the snake demon chased and killed him. And the death of his father, the lives of thousands of innocent people in Wudu. Now, the immortal Haoshan is still high above, and the concubine 11 is still at large. If it weren't for the Tongtian sword sect, Feng Xiu Cliff and Sun Wudao, Wu Yu would have been Wan Qing's excrement, and I'm afraid there would be no bones left. Encountering a desperate situation, reborn in one day. Wu Yu is like a ball of golden fire, flying on the endless mountains, heading towards the distant east, the prosperous Wudu in the mortal world. Closer, closer. The pain you brought me back then, now, I want to return it 10,000 times. Wudu. That day, the sun rose in the east, and Wu Yu saw Wudu in the morning light. He has arrived. Seeing this, please register an account on 17K, bookmark this book, and click to add it to your bookshelf. This book is free, so you don't need to read pirated copies. Follow the madman on WeChat, Fengqing Yang, and you can read the genuine version. /U003ch//U003e. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 37. Although it was early in the morning, Wudu was already bustling with activity in the morning light. From a distance, we could see that within the tall, thick, and ancient city walls, streams of smoke were rising, and all kinds of noisy sounds were mixed together, pouring into the city. Around Wudu, the animals in the surrounding mountains and forests were awakened /U003e. Looking further inside, you can vaguely see the golden city through the clouds and mist, shining in the morning light. That is the Suqiao Palace, a forbidden area for civilians, and the place where Wu Yu grew up. Wudu. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. In the morning light, Wu Yu, wearing a monkey mask and carrying a heavy demon fighting stick, appeared in the forest outside Wudu. He stood on the branch of a giant tree and looked at Wudu in the morning light. The city looks like a prosperous city, but in the dark corners, there are demons making trouble. Wu Yu naturally remembered clearly how he took Duan Hunsen and was escorted out of Wudu, with the snake demon accompanying him. Sister Wu Yu. Thinking of the prison car on that winter night, and the people chasing the prison car, there was no news about her for such a long time. There was a reason why he didn't fly directly into Wudu using Tianyunpeng. Before the full-scale war started, he had to sneak into Wudu to see Wu Yu. It is estimated that Immortal Haoshan has been in the Qi-condensing immortal root realm for some time. He is definitely not as easy to deal with as Sidu Minglang. I have to get close to him first as the supervisor of the immortal kingdom to know his capabilities, and finally I can take action. To truly kill an enemy is a technical job. It would be foolish for Wu Yu to just rush into Wudu and yell at him. Walk. He placed Tianyunpeng here and directly launched his speed. In the eyes of mortals, he was like a golden light. He passed away in a flash. Without others being able to detect it, he had entered Wudu and walked on the bustling streets. Whoosh! Wudu is very big, but it is very small for Wu Yu today. Sanssouci Palace. Looking up, the most conspicuous palace in the east of the palace is the Wu Yu Palace, a palace specially given to Princess Wu Yu by the late emperor. When he came here, Wu Yu felt a little nervous. He knew that with Wu Yu's character, it would be difficult for concubine 11 to tolerate her. Who knows what happened after he had been away for so long? Sister, you must be safe. Wu Yu considers himself a 7-foot man, and now he is not afraid of anything, not even a fight to the death. But when he arrived at the Wu Yu Palace, his heart was still trembling. He sneaked into Wushao Palace quietly. The guards inside Wushao Palace were normal and the maids and palace maids were in order, which made Wu Yu feel a little more relaxed. He walked through Princess Wu Yu's palace and other places, but did not find her. It should be there. Wu Yu's only hobby is reading, which has been the case since he was a child. Although he is not very old, he is definitely one of the most knowledgeable people in Dongyu Wu Kingdom. This was the opposite of Wu Yu, who had been interested in martial arts since childhood, and he didn't want to read any of those poems, books, and classics. Study. Wu Yu was standing behind the courtyard outside the window. Through the paper window, he could see the silhouette of a woman beside the desk. She was wearing court clothes, holding a brush in her jade hand, dipped in ink, and writing. Wu Yu's eyes passed through the paper window and saw her appearance clearly. She is Princess Wu Yu. A gentle and touching woman. She focused on the white paper on the table, not caring that her long hair fell from her ears. There were faint tears in her beautiful eyes, and her expression was a little haggard. A maid stood next to him, polishing ink and wiping tears. This scene is quiet and a little desolate. But no matter what, she is still there and intact. For Wu Yu, this is the biggest good news. His tense heartstrings finally relaxed at this moment. Seeing her again, this sister who had been accompanying and taking care of him since he was a child, escaped death, and his eyes were slightly red. Wu Yu would never forget her thin figure running after the prison car that winter night. After a while, the white paper on the desk was filled with writing. Although the words on it were densely packed, they actually only wrote 2 words, Wu Yu. Perhaps she used this to express her longing for the deceased Wu Yu. When the news first came, it was said that Wu Yu was eaten alive by a snake demon on the way to the border. After Wu Yu found out, he fell seriously ill and has not fully recovered until now. At this moment, Wu Yu wanted to go in and let her know that he was back safe and sound. No, we still don't know the true strength of immortal Xuanhuan. Once he is more powerful than me, I still need to endure it for a while. If my sister knows my identity, she will definitely expose her. Wu Yu is still very rational. Sister, I will repay you someday. Every time he stays here for a moment longer, he will only feel pity in his heart, but what he wants is revenge. Therefore, after confirming Wu Yu's safety, he left resolutely. This time he wanted to come to Wudu openly and face to face with the immortal Xuanhuan. Supervising the immortal kingdom is a matter for both the Tongtian Sword sect and the Xuanhuan Dao sect, and it complies with the regulations of the 2 factions, as long as Wu Yu does not show his identity. Immortal Xuanhuan didn't dare to do anything to him. After leaving Wu Palace, Wu Yu prepared to leave the city and drive Tianyunpeng. Only in the sky can one enter Wudu as a god in front of everyone. While walking through the city, I seemed to vaguely hear people discussing a name, Yuan Chen. After Wu Yu was deposed, concubine 11's eldest son Yuan Hao became the emperor of Suqiao. In Wu Yu's eyes, this Yuan Hao is a real waste. As for the name Yuan Chen, Wu Yu had a slight impression. It seems that concubine 11 gave birth to a pair of twin brothers, and the other one's name was Yuan Chen. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. However, when Wu Yu was growing up, he never saw this Yuan Chen and seemed to have disappeared. Anyway, his existence is a secret of the royal family. He stopped and listened to the discussion. When the Queen Mother Yuan 11 gave birth to a pair of twin brothers, one of them was Prince Yuan Chen, but we ordinary people didn't know it. Unexpectedly, it was actually Prince Yuan Chen who was sent to immortality by immortal Xuanhuan after he was born. Palace, become an immortal. This time, when Prince Yuan Chen returns, he is returning to the mortal world to have a look. I didn't expect that my royal family in Suqiao could actually produce an immortal. Now, our Suqiao's foundation will definitely last for generations. The royal families of neighboring countries will be scared out of their wits. After listening for a while, Wu Yu roughly understood. It turned out that Yuan Chen might have some foundation after he was born, so he was directly sent to the Xuanhuan Dao sect by immortal Xuanhuan. Senior brother Mo said that in fact, Xuanhuan Immortal has occupied the Dongyu Wu kingdom for a long time. Although the 2 factions agreed to change their positions every 10 years. However, in the past few decades, it seems that no one came to the Dongyu Wu kingdom. The main reason is that in the eyes of the Tongtian Sword sect disciples, the land in Dongyu Wu kingdom is too barren and of little benefit, so they are too lazy to manage it. But this time someone happened to propose to take back the management rights here. On the day I returned to Wudu, this Yuan Chen actually came back from Xuanhuan Daozong. I just don't know what he is capable of after being forged in Xuanhuan Daozong for more than 10 years. It seems that after returning to Wudu, besides immortal Xuanhuan, there is another opponent. At first, I thought that Prince Yu was the most capable prince in the world, but compared with Prince Yuan Chen, the difference between shit and the sun is nothing. That Prince Yu dared to invade even his mother and concubine, he really deserves to die. It's God. The snake demon descended and ate him. Vaguely, Wu Yu heard this discussion. It seems that although the snake demon Wanking did not eat me, he probably came back claiming to have eaten me because he was worried about Haoshen's punishment. There were also some soldiers who escaped, but they did not see my master coming to rescue them. This was a good thing, as it could hide his identity so that Haoshen and the others would not suspect him for the time being. It was just a pain for Wu Yu, who had to bear the news of his death. No wonder she looked so miserable. Haoshen, concubine 11. Wu Yu was furious. At this time, countless people in Wudu cheered and it was very lively. Wu Yu looked up and saw a black spot rapidly enlarging in the northern sky, and soon appeared in the sky above Wudu. When Yuan Chen returned, the whole country was excited. Above the sky, a sound of horse roars shook the surrounding areas. In the shocked sight of the mortals, two tall horses appeared. The horses were galloping in the sky. They were all white. The most surprising thing was that their ribs actually grew. It has a pair of huge wings, which are no different from the wings of a crane. It is this pair of wings that gives this horse the ability to fly in the air and makes it look even more handsome. This is the crane horse trained by the Xuanhuan Taoist section. Wu Yu read Dongsheng Shenzhouji and gained some insights. The flying and weight-bearing capabilities of this crane horse are similar to those of Tianyun Peng. Two crane horses were pulling a huge, resplendent chariot, flying through the air. The so-called Prince Yuan Chen must be in that chariot. To Wu Yu, this was nothing, but to a mortal, this was like an immortal descending to earth. Immortal chariots, incredible horses with wings. Greetings to the immortal. For a time, hundreds of thousands of people in Wudu rushed out of the house. When they saw the crane and horse on that day, they burst into tears with excitement, fell to their knees on the ground, and even prostrate themselves to the ground, extremely pious. From Wu Yu's position, he could see that the entire street was full of people kneeling, and everyone was trembling with excitement. There was a sacred look on their faces, which was their deepest awe for the gods in the sky. In the past, they also knelt down and worshipped immortal Haoshen like this. It was the reverence of mortals for immortals that allowed Wu Yu to be easily swept out of Wu capital by the immortal Haoshen. It turns out that sitting in a well and looking at the sky is so scary. Wu Yu was glad that he finally escaped from the whirlpool of mortal world. Yuan Chen. The crane and chariot flashed past and landed in the Wudu palace. Mortals have no right to see the true face of Prince Yuan Chen. But witnessing the crane horse with their own eyes can make them talk about it with pride for the rest of their lives. He came back on the same day as me, but he is much more impressive than me. Wu Yu has a clear grudge against Yuan Chen. He has no grudge against Yuan Chen, so he does not intend to transfer the anger of hatred to him. Unless he stands with immortal Haoshen and goes against me. In fact, this is almost 100% a matter of course. It is not something Wu Yu can control. He only knows to kill anyone who stands in the way. Yuan Chen, you're done being in the limelight, it's my turn. Wu Yu adjusted the monkey mask on his face, quickly left the city, then stepped onto the Tianyun Peng, controlled the Tianyun Peng, and soared into the sky. Tianyun Peng, a spiritual beast with the blood of immortal beasts, has a wingspan of 5 feet, which is much larger than that of a crane and horse, and it is also more powerful and domineering. Boom! Tianyun Peng tore through the clouds and descended over Wudu in the blink of an eye. Haoshen, a disciple of the Zhongyuan Dao sect, I am a disciple of the Tongtian sword section. I am here with the supervision order of the Immortal Kingdom. Come and see me quickly. Wu Yu's voice exploded like a bomb in the sky above Wudu. /U003ch//U003e. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 38. Wudu was already in a state of excitement because of the return of Prince Yuanchen /U003e. Hundreds of thousands of people, with their faces glowing red, were talking passionately about Prince Yuan Chen. At this moment, Wu Du was excited again. People looked up and saw a huge snow-white rock flying from the sky. However, at the same time, a vast voice echoed in the sky. Only the top martial arts masters could make such a thick voice. What a big bird! Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. There's a man on the bird. This bird is bigger than the giant whale in the East China Sea. For a moment, the people of Wudu were dumbfounded. The return of Prince Yuan Chen had already shocked them enough, but they didn't expect it to be even more shocking this time. Wu Yu returned this time to represent the Tongtian sword sect and take over the Dongyu Wu kingdom, so he had to show his momentum. Presumably the immortal Haoshan should also know that the disciples of the Tongtian sword sect are coming. Wu Yu arrived at the imperial palace amidst the awed and shocked eyes of the boiling Wudu people. Tian Yunpeng carried him and hovered over the palace. Who is this? He dared to call immortal Haoshan by his first name. Obviously, he is also an immortal. How is it possible? Are there so many immortals in this world? Today, 3 immortals appeared in Wudu. More Wudu people came out of their residences and ran through the streets and alleys, discussing today's grand scene. Almost everyone was excited. Most people will never have the chance to see gods in their lives. Children playing around, women cooking food, merchants doing business, guards and maids from various wealthy families, all kinds of people put down what they were doing and stared excitedly at the sky. This is a grand scene that Wudu has never seen before. Finally, I will see the immortal Haoshan. Wu Yu was in a calm mood, as calm as a calm ocean, but there was turbulent magma hidden under the sea. Once it erupted, it would definitely evaporate the entire calm ocean, turning Wu Yu into a ball of fire. Under Wu Yu's gaze, the palace first calmed down for a moment, and then suddenly shook, letting out 2 horse roars. In the blink of an eye, 2 crane horses rushed out of the palace. There was a person sitting on each crane horse, and one of them was that person. The immortal Haoshan who had appeared countless times in Wu Yu's dreams. Wu Yu wished he could kill him with 1,000 swords. There is another young man who looks almost the same as Yuan Hao, but his temperament is thousands of miles different. He is wearing a Taoist robe like clear water, his long hair is tied into a bunch, his eyebrows are clear, his eyes are sparkling, and he is a little colder and charming. She looked more like a woman, with a faint smile on her lips. It was much prettier than Yuan Hao's self-righteous face, and it was also much deeper. He is truly worthy of being a prince who grew up in Zhongyuan Daozong. This person is none other than the recently returned Prince Yuan Chen. At the same time, Wu Yu also noticed that in the Shangqian Palace, the largest palace, Emperor Yuan Hao and Queen Mother Yuan 11 walked out surrounded by ministers and came outside the palace. They looked at Wu Yu slightly displeased. This direction. The Shangqian Palace was supposed to be the place where Wu Yu ascended the throne as emperor. Wu Yu knew the faces of all these ministers. They were not evil and they were trying their best in governing the country. They were just too deified as the immortal Haoshan, so they were completely controlled by him. Prince Yao, Prime Minister Song, General Di, Marshal Wu. Haoshan, Concubine 11. Today, Wu Yu finally saw them again. Concubine 11 is still so charming, and the years have not left any trace on her body, especially after becoming the Queen Mother. Her majesty has increased. Even the look she is looking at Wu Yu at this moment is so noble, and she is obviously confident. As for the new Emperor Yuan Hao, judging from his eagerness to try, he is a self-righteous fool. Haoshan, on the other hand, has not changed at all. He still looks like a lofty god with a sanctimonious face. Now he and Yuan Chen fly into the sky on crane horses and confront Wu Yu high in the sky. Even if Wu Yu only has the identity of a disciple of the Tongtian sword sect, the two are in opposition, but he showed a gentle smile and said, "Who am I to be so majestic? It turns out to be the sword immortal of the Tongtian sword section. May I ask what your name is? Regarding the pseudonym, Wu Yu had already thought about it. My dear, son Wuodeo. How much torture and effort did Wu Yu go through in order to have such a moment of face-to-face conversation with the other party? Finally, he waited for this historic moment, and he was carefully observing the immortal Haoshan. In the past, it seemed that he was the supreme immortal, but now, it seems that he is just a disciple of the Xuanhuan Dao Sect's Qi condensation realm. Haoshan, your magic power is powerful. It is stronger than Situ Minglang and I, but not as good as senior sister Su and senior brother Mo. With Wu Yu's current state, during the confrontation with immortal Haoshan, he could probably sense the threat level of the other party. This shows that I cannot take revenge immediately. I must look for a suitable opportunity. After waiting for such a long time, Wu Yu is still safe now, so Wu Yu can resist the murderous intention in his heart. As for Yuan Chen, he is extremely talented and is about the same age as Wu Yu. He should be at the 9th level of the mortal body forging realm and have the same level of immortality as Wu Yu. In the Xuanhuan Dao sect, if you reach the 9th level of martial arts at this age, you will definitely be able to condense your energy in the future, and your future will be bright. Obviously, Haoshan spent a lot of effort to make him like this. When Wu Yu was sizing them up, Haoshan, Yuan Chen, Concubine 11 and Yuan Hao were all sizing up Wu Yu, the protector of the country who took over Dongyu Wu Kingdom. Yuan Hao first frowned, his face instantly turned cold, and he said in a deep voice, "Your Excellency son Wuodeo, I have two questions. First, the supervisor of the Immortal Kingdom must have the realm of Qi condensation realm, and you obviously have not reached this realm. Secondly, the Tongtian sword sect is a peerless swordsman, and what you are carrying behind your back is probably a gun. How can we prove that you are the new supreme protector of the country?" This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. So he's the new supreme immortal protector of the country. When immortal Haoshan said these words, some people heard it and knew Wu Yu's true identity. It turned out that this new immortal was really an immortal, and he seemed to want to take over Dongyu Wu Kingdom. Immortal Haoshan has created his own myth in Dongyu Wu Kingdom over the years, allowing people to believe in him and regard himself as the only immortal between heaven and earth. But now that Wu Yu has arrived, he doesn't care so much about the agreements between the sects. Wu Yu had long known that the other party would make such an attack. You are Haoshan, right? Look carefully, just rely on this Immortal Kingdom supervision order. Wu Yu took out the token from the Sumuru bag, and his eyes hidden in the monkey mask flashed. A Leng Guang said with a sneer, "As for my abilities and the weapons I am good at, this has nothing to do with you. With the Immortal Kingdom supervision order, you can basically prove your identity." Immortal Haoshan had no idea that the Tongtian sword sect would send such a strange person as Wu Yu to arrive. Judging from the current situation, no one present would have guessed that this was actually the former Prince Yu. Your Excellency is here to take over the Wu Kingdom of Dongyu. Why are you wearing a mask? Could it be that you don't have the face to meet people? Yuan Chen next to him said these irritating words with a smile on his face. Little girl, this is my freedom, what does it have to do with you? Wu Yu stared at him and sneered. In fact, their conversation was taking place at high altitude, and people nearby could only vaguely hear some words. In fact, at this moment, almost most people were holding their breath, worried that the sound of breathing would affect their hearing. You call me little girl? Yuan Chen was not angry at all, but smiled and said to Immortal Haoshan, "Senior brother Haoshan, I have a merciless request." You say? I doubt his identity as the supervisor of the Immortal Kingdom. It is impossible for the Tongtian sword sect to send a disciple who is not in the Qi condensation realm to hold such an important position. Maybe he was lucky enough to pick up the supervisory order of the Immortal Kingdom, so I want to test his abilities. Yuan Chen's voice was soft, like long-running water, but his provocation was quite full. Do you want to challenge me? Wu Yu deliberately raised his voice so that the people of Wuta could hear that this was Yuan Chen coming to the door himself. It would be great if he could give the other party a blow. He naturally holds grudges. He just heard someone say that compared to Yuan Chen, the difference between him and Yuan Chen is the difference between dog shit and the sun. So who is the dog shit and who is the sun? It's not a challenge, it's a verification. We have no intention of targeting the Tongtian sword sect, but we just don't trust your identity. Although Yuan Chen is a man, he feels very delicate when he speaks. Come on, but don't cry if you lose. Wu Yu laughed loudly. With his current chest, this laughter made even the tables and chairs on the streets of Wuta tremble, and the hundreds of thousands of people shouted. According to legend, the news was quickly confirmed that the new immortal was going to fight Prince Yuan Chen. Prince Yuan Chen, we must win. That's immortal Yuan Chen. The hearts of the people of Wuta were almost in their throats. For a moment, the whole Wuta seemed to be still. Everyone stared at the sky with their eyes wide open. Go down. Yuan Chen pointed to an open space below. No, just up here. Wu Yu was full of courage, meaning that he would fight on the backs of Yunpeng and Hema today. Okay, although Yuan Chen was feminine, he was decisive and courageous in his actions. Now he looked at the immortal Haoshan and then rode the crane horse towards Wu Yu to fight. Senior brother son, I'm sorry. On the way, Yuan Chen actually took out a magical weapon. It was a long spear, which was green in color, like a green bamboo. It was surrounded by a whirlwind. When he waved it, a storm swept across, making Yuan Chen's brocade robe fly and make a haunting sound. Wow! The two immortals were fighting. The scene was unprecedented and unparalleled for the people of Wudu. Red envelope /U003ch/U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng Qing Yang. Chapter 39. Chapter 39. Zhang Junlin. At Yuan Chen's level, he actually has a magic weapon, which is enough to prove that he has a very high status in the Zhonyuan Dao section. At this level, Chu Sidu Minglang seems to have no magic weapon. 13 Storm Styles. In an instant, Yuan Chen rode a crane horse and danced the spear in front of everyone's eyes. A storm swept across Wudu, and storms formed above the palace. The flags on the palace walls were torn to pieces, and the guards were torn apart. The soldiers were also unsteady on their feet. The immortal appears. Seeing such a huge scene, the people of Wudu were so excited that they fell to their knees like a tide. Their hearts were shocked by this unbelievable method, and their faces were full of sacred piety. Little tricks. Although the realm is the same, it is thousands of miles different. Under the gaze of everyone, Wu Yu's movements seemed slow and leisurely, but in fact he was extremely fast. He took off the demon subduing stick and held it directly in his hand before removing the wrapping cloth. Die. Yuan Chen looked feminine, but his attacks were very ruthless. The target of the spear was Wu Yu's eyebrows, heart, and other places. The spear struck and the storm roared. Even Yunpeng was frightened that day. Buzz. At this moment, Wu Yu, wearing a mask and holding the demon subduing stick wrapped in cloth, jumped up and broke away from Tian Yunpeng's bird's back. At a terrifying speed, he turned into a golden light and hit the ground in an instant. Yuan Chen sighed. When the demon subduing stick instantly penetrated the storm wind, and with terrifying force, knocked away the magic weapon spear with one blow, and then swept the stick over Yuan Chen's forehead with a domineering blow, sending it flying away. All this happened in just a moment. Wu Yu took over the frightened crane horse, jumped directly back to Tian Yunpeng in the air, and neatly put the demon subduing stick behind his back again. This battle, which was originally thought to be very exciting, actually lasted for just one breath. Wu Yu took action. Yuan Chen was injured and fell from the sky screaming. In fact, Wu Yu didn't hit him hard, just touched him lightly. Now that they had just met, it was not the time to kill him. Besides, Yuan Chen had nothing to do with this grudge for the time being. If he hadn't been merciful, the stick just now would have made Yuan Chen's head fly out. Call. At the tense moment, Immortal Haoshan rode the crane horse and galloped away, catching Yuan Chen before Yuan Chen hit the ground. Otherwise, at such a high altitude, Yuan Chen would have been smashed to pieces. Although there were no casualties, the scene was unacceptable to hundreds of thousands of people in Wudu. In their eyes, Prince Yuan Chen is very strong and an immortal, but it is obvious that this new immortal crushed Yuan Chen with one move. Clean and crisp. How could? It seems that Prince Yuan Chen is still too young. This masked old god is probably someone who has practiced for hundreds of years. It is normal that Prince Yuan Chen is no match for him. This is all they can do to comfort themselves. At this time, Immortal Haoshan had already caught Yuan Chen. After careful inspection, Wu Yu actually just knocked Yuan Chen off his horse and did not hurt him at all. It was Wu Yu who showed mercy. This made Immortal Haoshan, who was already a little angry, unable to fight back and could only hold it back. Thank you, senior brother son, for showing mercy. Yuan Chen recovered at this time and raised his hand to Wu Yugong. Although he was given a huge blow by Wu Yu, it was not too difficult for him to accept. The whole Wu capital was noisy, and one attack made these people truly fear him. This is a very important moment for Wu Yu. In the past, like the people of Wudu, he lived in the shadow of the immortal, but now, he has defeated the immortal in people's eyes. If you want to kill an immortal, you must first become an immortal. Because Wu Yu was merciless, even the immortal Haoshan had to swallow his power. There was anger in his heart, but it did not show it at all on his face. Instead, he showed a smile and said, "It's just a poor Taoist who is blind. I didn't expect Sun Ji Unxian so powerful. Such strength is enough to serve as the supervisor of the immortal kingdom of the Tongtian sword sect. The other party can only admit it." Below, Queen Mother Yuan 11 and Yuan Hao looked at each other, both of them looking a little depressed. They could see that this new immortal protector seemed to be difficult to deal with. "Mother, don't worry. Immortal Haoshan will kill him sooner or later," the new Emperor Yuan Hao still said arrogantly. "Don't let the man named Sun Wuodao hear these words." Queen Mother Yuan 11 was startled and wanted to slap Yuan Hao. "That's an immortal, it's easy to hear Yuan Hao's words." At this time, Immortal Haoshan seemed to have completely forgotten the provocation just now. He smiled brightly and said to Wu Yu, "Since you are here, the Dongyu Wu kingdom will be handed over to you from now on. I have been stationed here for many years. I'm very tired after killing countless demons. If you don't mind, I'll call you brother. Brother, I have moved out of the Shangtian Palace on Shangxian Peak and asked people to clean it now. You can stay in the Shangtian Palace." As far as Wu Yu knew, Immortal Haoshan used to live in Shangtian Palace, which was a place that mortals could not reach. I didn't expect him to give it up to me so simply. Could he really be so prepared to return to Zhongyuan Daozong cleanly? Wu Yu didn't want him to leave so early. He said, "Thank you. However, when will you leave Dongyu Wu Kingdom? A fairy country can only have one protector of the country." Although the other party was close to him, Wu Yu didn't want to call him brother to avoid feeling nauseated. Haoshan Shangxian laughed loudly and said, "I still have some personal matters that need to be dealt with for a month or two. During this time, I need to inform my brother about the situation of the monsters everywhere in Suqiao. A month or two." Wu Yu knew that he would not leave so simply. It just so happened that Wu Yu didn't want him to leave. When they met for the first time, Wu Yu gave them a warning and confirmed Haoshan's abilities. Finally, Immortal Haoshan took Wu Yu to the Shangtian Palace and said with a smile, "Brother, you can rest here for the time being. This will be your territory from now on. When night falls, I will send someone to greet you." You go to the palace and let the Dongui royal family take care of you. I won't disturb you, brother, and I'll leave first. I won't send it away, Wu Yu said expressionlessly. He has a monkey mask and others cannot see his expression. Haha, Immortal Haoshan did not stay long and returned to the palace on a crane horse. It is estimated that he was stationed in the palace during this period. Wu Yu stood on the top of the Shangxian Peak and had a panoramic view of the entire Wu capital. From this position, he could clearly see the Haoshan Immortal entering the palace. Compared with the Immortal Gates, the mortal cities and palaces are still too small. The mountain breeze blows on my face. Wu Yu looked at Wu Du with burning eyes. At first glance, Haoshan should be at the third level of the Qi condensation realm. He is much stronger than Situ Ming Lang. I estimate that I will have to reach the Qi condensation realm before I can kill him. It seems that God has given me the greatest test. I hate him so much that I still want to hide and cultivate next to him. This forbearance is really uncomfortable. However, it is precisely this that is a challenge. None of them knew he was Wu Yu. What Wu Yu is looking forward to most now is probably the day when he kills Haoshan and reveals the mask of the demon monkey. Blood and anger collided, and hatred became a sea, rushing on this immortal peak. Today's so-called dinner party to welcome the wind and wash away the dust. What do they want to do? It seems that this time we are going to face Concubine 11. All the details of the false accusation that day were vivid in his mind. Thinking of those scenes, Wu Yu couldn't help but sneer. He is not a sinister person, but Haoshan and Concubine 11 made him into a devil. If he doesn't kill them, Wu Yu won't be able to change back. Shangqian Palace, the largest palace in the Imperial Palace, was where the Suqiao Emperor handled government affairs. Today, there are only 4 people in Shangqian Palace, namely Immortal Haoshan, Concubine 11, and brother Yuan Chen Yuanhao. Although Yuanhao was the current emperor, among the 4 people, he could only huddle in a corner and couldn't say anything. Father, mother, son Wuidao doesn't seem to be in the Qi condensation realm, but he should have the strength of the Qi condensation realm. It doesn't seem to be easy to deal with. Yuan Chen frowned and paced back and forth. It seems that brothers Yuan Chen and Yuanhao have long known who their real father is. Immortal Haoshan had just returned at this time. He waved his hand and said, at most, it is equivalent to the first level of Qi condensation realm, so it is not something to be afraid of. You can deal with it casually. Give him some suppression at night and let him learn to behave. Yuan Chen said, that's true, but what I'm more worried about is his section. If he is suppressed too hard and returns to his sect for help, it will be more troublesome. Immortal Haoshan smiled and said, it's not difficult. Give him something harsh and let him behave himself at Shangxian Peak. Besides, you Yuan Chen are the prince of Suqiao and a disciple of my Zhonyuan Dao section. There is every reason to turn Suqiao into a vassal state of our Zhonyuan Dao sect, and there are reasons for us to stay here. In fact, both Yuan Chen and Haoshan can return to Zhonyuan Daozong. However, after all, Yuan Chen has a royal status and is too deeply involved with Haoshan Immortal and Dongyu Wu Kingdom, leaving Wu Yu in charge of Concubine 11 and Yuanhao in the future. They are unwilling. The only way is to suppress Wu Yu and let him stay honest. Is there any way to kill him directly? Concubine 11 interjected. Stupid, Tongtian sword sect is not a fuel-efficient lamp. If someone dies, there will be no peace in Suqiao. Haoshan scolded. Yuan Chen said quickly, Father, don't blame mother. This matter is actually very easy to handle, just rely on father. Besides, I brought senior brother Zhang Junlin here this time. He has stayed in the sect for a long time. Come out and get some air. With senior brother Zhang Junlin here, 10,000 Sun Wuidao will not be a problem. Zhang Junlin, Immortal Haoshan gasped at the mention of him. He patted Yuan Chen on the shoulder and said, the biggest surprise you have given me in this life is that you are involved with Zhang Junlin. He is the sect leader's biological son and his direct disciple. he will definitely be the sect leader of our Xuanhuan Dao sect in the future. Yuan Chen, you must remember that no matter what Zhang Junlin asks for, you must agree to him. Yuan Chen smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, father, he has a very good relationship with me, otherwise he wouldn't have given me the magic weapon directly." There was a hint of sweetness in the words. /U003ch//U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 40. Wudu, 2 Immortals Fight B/U003E. After experiencing this earth-shattering scene, even if the night falls, the entire Wudu is still like an excited beast, with no intention of falling asleep. On the street, people were running around discussing, and in tea houses and restaurants, there was constant noise. People couldn't help but look in the direction of the palace, their eyes full of happiness. Tonight, the banquet for Wu Yu to welcome Wu Yu was held at the Tianwu Palace. This was the highest level reception since the founding of Wu Kingdom in Dongyu. Because the protagonist was an immortal and a human emperor, even the maids who poured the wine and served the banquet were selected. They are all stunningly beautiful in the world, and most of them are also skilled in martial arts. After Wu Yu arrived, concubine 11, Yuan Hao and others stood up to greet her. They had not been so close to concubine 11 for a long time. From time to time, his eyes fell on the woman next to him who was enchanting in appearance but feisty in heart. Fortunately, he had a mask, otherwise they would all have seen Wu Yu. Yu's face was cold. "Everyone, please go out." After Wu Yu took his seat, concubine 11 gently waved her hand to let the maids leave Tianwu Palace. She hooked her orchid fingers, gently held the richly carved wine pot, leaned against Wu Yu with a graceful posture, filled Wu Yu's wine glass, and said, "Sun Shangxian, please try my Suqiao's monkey wine." This monkey wine. There were a lot of introductions later, but Wu Yu didn't listen. After all, he was familiar with everything about Suqiao. Wu Gong also came here that day, but he was the host before and now he is the guest. Strangely, the main table at the top of the table was actually empty today. Immortal Haoshan and Yuan Chen were on both sides, while concubine 11 and Yuan Hao were further down. In addition to the four of them, there was another person present, that was Princess Wu, whom Wu Yu thought about day and night. She was sitting in the corner, her eyes calm, looking down at the table. With her by his side, Wu Yu felt more at ease no matter what the swords and blood were tonight. This is a habit formed since childhood. She is a sister who makes people feel safe. Immortal Haoshan raised his glass and said, "Brother, Pandeo will introduce you to you." As he said, he introduced the identities of Queen Mother 11, Emperor Yuan Hao, and Princess Wu. When he talked about Princess Wu, he at the signal, Wu Yu nodded to Wu Yu, and there was a look in the middle. Her eyes were much darker than before, but eyes are the windows to the soul. At that moment, Wu Yu noticed the sudden change in her expression, and knew that she had doubts about her identity, so he quickly averted his eyes. He didn't want to let Princess Wu recognize herself on this occasion. They had been chatting for a while before, but now when they talked about Princess Wu, the Emperor Yuan Hao suddenly smiled and said, "Sun Shangxian, you are not the only one. In a few days, I will have guests in Wudu, and they are also noble beings." Yuan Hao's character is eager to express himself since he was a child, but he has always been suppressed by Wu Yu. He was probably suffocated after not speaking for so long. "Oh, is there someone trying to compete with me for the position of Supreme Immortal Protector?" Wu Yu's gaze penetrated the monkey mask and pierced the eyes of Emperor Yuan Hao, making the latter feel a terrible oppression. That's, do you know the East God Kingdom in the East China Sea? This is a happy event for our country, Suqiao, and the East God Kingdom. The king of the East God Kingdom is about to marry our Princess Wu and become the queen of the East God Kingdom. In a few days, he will come to my capital of Wu to pick up his bride, and he will be accompanied by the supreme immortal protector of the Eastern Divine Kingdom. Click. The golden wine glass in Wu Yu's hand suddenly became a piece of gold mud. To be honest, after hearing the news, Wu Yu really had the urge to pick up the demon stick and smash Yuanhao into a pulp first. Now that son Wuodao has passed away, Wu Yu is his biggest concern in this life and the sister he cares about most. First of all, this is obviously a political marriage. Secondly, Wu Yu, the king of the Eastern God Kingdom, is very familiar with him. His former legion is having resisted the pirates from the East China Sea. The 9 regicides were a murderous devil, with an estimated number of hundreds of thousands of innocent souls under his command. This group of thieves directly cut off the maritime trade route of Suqiao, and even went ashore from time to burn, kill, and rob. Wu Yu once swore that after ascending the throne, he would destroy this group of thieves. Unexpectedly, upon their return this time, Immortal Haoshan and the others actually betrothed Princess Wu Yu to the 9 regicides. Obviously, they were sending Wu Yu into a pit of fire. Fury. But there was another voice in his heart, which made Wu Yu suppress his current anger. That's sanity. Anyway, I came back in time. Sister, I haven't married to the Eastern Divine Kingdom yet, and I haven't come into contact with the 9 regicides yet. Things haven't happened yet. If he comes back too late, he may have to kill the Eastern Divine Kingdom at this time. Since the incident has not happened, now is the last time to let anger overwhelm reason. Now the immortal Haoshan is more powerful than me. If I don't handle it well and expose my identity in advance, not only will my life be in danger, but even Wu Yu will not be able to escape the painful fate. Once it's related to Wu Yu's fate, you can't mess around. Sun Shangxian, Haoshan Shangxian saw Wu Yu crushing the wine glass, and of course he had doubts in his heart. Wu Yu knew that he could not show off his lies, so he had an idea in his mind and remembered the content of East Victory of the Divine Continent, so he said coldly, this so-called Eastern Divine Kingdom should be a newly established country. It is obviously not an immortal country. How come there is a supreme immortal protecting the country? As far as I know, the East China Sea is the territory of the Ghost Cultivator. This supreme immortal protecting the country must be a Ghost Cultivator. Ghost Cultivator. Wu Yu learned from Dongsheng Shenzhouji that Ghost Cultivators were the third huge force besides ascetics and demons. There is a saying that there are 5 insects in all things in the world. It is divided into 5 categories: worms, feather worms, caterpillars, scale insects, and scale insects. Insects are mortals, and the other 4 categories are birds, beasts, fish, and insects. Except for mortals, the other 4 types of cultivators, who gain good fortune and spiritual wisdom, are all demons. There are also plants, trees, rocks, and other dead objects that are created and become demons. Mortals who practice Taoism are those who practice Taoism and are immortals. However, the so-called Tao can actually be roughly divided into 2 types of Tao. A kind of Tao is the orthodox Tao, the Tao of heaven, the Tao permitted by God, the Tao of ascending to immortality. Most of the Tao that Wu Yu has seen are this kind of Tao, which can be called the Tao of immortals. The other path is the path of evil, the path of plunder. In order to be powerful, it goes against the will of heaven. It does not seek merit, but only seeks to be powerful. Even in order to be powerful, it can do all kinds of evil things and commit millions of sins. This path is called, call it, the way of ghosts and gods. According to legend, if you practice the way of immortality, you can become a true immortal. No matter what you do, if you practice the way of ghosts and gods, you will go to 10,000 hells, suffer all kinds of suffering, and never be reincarnated for eternity. But these are all legends. In order to become stronger, there are still many insects in this world, that is, mortals, who practice the way of ghosts and gods. These people live in darkness, are insidious and cunning, and are more hated by the ascetics than the demons that eat people. People who practice the way of ghosts and gods are called ghost cultivators. There are countless islands in the East China Sea. It is said that in the land of sunrise, where the sun shines brightest, there are 4 huge islands. The 4 islands together are as huge as 1/10 of the Dongsheng Shenzhou. They are called Dongyang 4 Island, that is the base camp of ghost cultivators. Immortals and ghost cultivators are all insects and humans. The demons are the other 4 insects. No matter what, ghost cultivators and demons are the formidable enemies of ascetics. When Wu Yu heard that there was an immortal protector of the country in the Eastern God Kingdom, Wu Yu could roughly guess a thing or two. Tongtian Sword Sect and Xuanhuan Dao Sect are both orthodox sects, so when he heard the news about the ghost cultivator, his reaction of crushing the wine glass was considered normal. In fact, the reason he really crushed the wine glass was Wu Yu. In this case, Immortal Haoshan did not doubt it, but smiled and said, "Brother, you are overthinking. This immortal protector of the Eastern God Kingdom is not a ghost cultivator. You don't need to be excited at all." That's good. Wu Yu didn't care if he was a ghost cultivator or not, but there was no way to take Wu Yu away. He glanced at Wu Yu, and judging from her dull reaction, she must have accepted her fate. But Wu Yu knew her personality best, so she must be ready to commit suicide. "Since I came back in time, I will save her." The dinner went on for a while, and at this moment, Yuan Chen suddenly smiled and said, "Senior brother Sun, I will introduce you to a big shot today. Don't be scared." Big shot? Why are there so-called big shots here? In a place like Wudu, they are extremely big. This change was beyond Wu Yu's expectation, but he had a hunch that today's banquet would definitely not be as simple as before. It seemed that the other party was going to attack. Yuan Chen just returned when he arrived. There must be a reason of. Sure enough, at this moment, Immortal Haoshan and other 4 people stood up to greet him with smiles on their faces. Seeing this, Princess Wu quickly stood up to greet this important person. "Brother, I advise you to stand up." Immortal Haoshan was very enthusiastic before, but now his attitude suddenly changed, just like the indifference he had when he was in Zai Palace. Wu Yu wanted to see who else was coming. Just when he stood up, a figure came outside Tianwu Palace. In the blink of an eye, he stepped into Tianwu Palace and instantly became the focus of everyone's attention. It was a tall man, no less tall than Wu Yu. He was wearing a silver coat and an animal fur cloak. The top of the cloak was connected to a piece of fox skin including a fox head. The fox head rested on his chest. On the shoulders. Looking further up, he has sword-shaped eyebrows and tiger-like eyes, long hair shawl. Looking at that face, he is really masculine and domineering, with majestic weapons. Every move has the demeanor of a born emperor. Although Yuan Hao is the emperor of Suqiao, compared with this person, come on, that's really the difference between the pearl of rice and the bright moon. The eyes that are as bright as the stars, the evil smile on the corner of the mouth, the aggressive gaze, and the wide and open steps all remind people of 4 words, that is, dominate the world. Danger. Wu Yu cultivated his indestructible body and visualized his mind as a monkey. His perception was like that of a wild beast. When he encountered a very dangerous enemy, he had a feeling similar to that of a cat's fur. This evil and domineering young man in front of him, which made him feel deeply threatened. I didn't expect that there would be people like senior sister Su and senior brother Mo in Wudu. Wu Yu was shocked inside. /U003ch//U003e